I went back and watched Nebraska, Michigan last night. 1.5x speed, I think. I don't have time to watch the entire game. Got a lot going on. But I felt good about what Nebraska looked like that day. And when I watched that game the first time, I didn't feel good. I think a lot of it had to do with watching college football the week after watching Nebraska lose to Michigan and realizing that there were a lot of other teams with similar issues, and that Nebraska's not as far behind as we all thought they were to begin with. When the line first dropped for the Michigan State game, what was it, 11 and a half when it first came out? I think it's still at 11 and a half. It's moved up and down. But when it first came out, I was like, it does not make sense that Michigan State would be getting that many points. You look at the history between these two, right? Nebraska, Michigan State. You go back to 2011 when they first started playing, back-to-back losses. Then Nebraska had a couple wins. Then every single game from there on was 1 to 3 points. Nebraska had them in Lincoln back-to-back years, 1-1. I was at that game. Very special night. The Brandon Riley game, if you remember that. The next one was on the road. Or no, that was at home. Michigan State on the road, sorry. I was at the Oklahoma State West Virginia game watching that from a box on a little tiny TV while I watched Oklahoma West Virginia. I think it went to overtime or it came down to the wire. Big game. But regardless, it was snowy. Adrian Martinez and Nebraska's run game found a way to get it done. Yeah, Adrian Martinez for sure, 2018. Then 2021 and 2023, just heartbreaking losses to Michigan State. And the most recent one was 2023 when Nebraska obviously should have won that game. And they were the better team. They were the more well-constructed team. They had their whole entire coaching staff. Michigan State was down bad. Sam Levitt came in the game as a true freshman, the current quarterback at Arizona State. And yeah, just a little bit depressing. My point in saying all this is I was surprised to see the point spread be as big as it was, because why would Nebraska, a team who's consistently played Michigan State so close, why are they laying that freaking many? But then you start looking at all of the details, the stat profiles, the players, the talent, right? And you realize, okay, Jonathan Smith is in year 2 at Michigan State. Aiden Childs, decent quarterback. I heard Steve Sipple on Husker Online say he's the best remaining quarterback on Nebraska's schedule. I also heard him say that he's better than Bryce Underwood. I love Sip. I think he's awesome. People tell me really good things about him. I want to meet him one day. But that was an egregious take. What are we talking about? Jaden Mayaba is much better than Aiden Childs. I would argue that Aiden Childs is equal in terms of talent to Drew Aller. And there's no way he's better than Bryce Underwood. So outside of him, they still lack in a lot of ways. They have a decent running back. They have a decent receiving core. They have a weak offensive and defensive line. They don't have good defensive backs, and they're not going to match up well with Nebraska's receivers. And all of this is just to say, after watching Nebraska again, after ridding myself of all of these negative emotions that I felt after the Michigan game and coming back to reality, because that's what I'm here to do, right? I'm here to be a realist. Nebraska matches up so well that they should win this game by 14 points. USC won this game by 14 points 2 weeks ago as a 19.5-point favorite. Doesn't matter. The point is they won by 2 touchdowns. Backdoor cover by Michigan State. I had Michigan State plus 19.5, so you know I was excited watching that game at Barry's after the Nebraska-Michigan game. But I will say this. I'm taking Nebraska. I'm giving the points. I don't have any concern that this is going to be some dogfight. Now, there is one potential problem that I have recently integrated into my thought process. And this is the only thing that makes me rethink what I just said with my opener. There will be wind tomorrow, and it will be hot. It's the perfect culmination of a weather game we watched last year against Rutgers. Nebraska and Rutgers both undefeated. No, Nebraska was 4-1. Rutgers was undefeated at the time. Rutgers had Ethan Kaliak-Manis, a quarterback who had beaten Nebraska in the past. They had a good running back in Kyle Monangai. And I don't know what the spread on this game was. It might have been 3.5 or 4.5, whatever it was. I think Nebraska did cover. But it was ugly. Dylan threw for what? 134 yards, had an interception. It was an ugly game the entire way through. It felt like a game Nebraska could lose up until the fourth quarter when it was, they were up 14-0 and Rutgers had, I think, a touchdown within the last 10 minutes, last 5 minutes maybe, whatever it was. It was ugly up until the end. And if this game profiles the same way, then I guess we could see a remake I don't feel like we're going to see that. I think Dylan was more raw last season. I think the team was in a different place mentally last season. I think they have the killer instinct now. I think they understand what's in front of them. I think they understand that they have to put the dagger in and they cannot let teams keep it as close as they have in the past. So I'm pretty confident to say that the weather hopefully won't affect them. Even with the weather, I'm a believer in Emmett Johnson. Even with the weather, I'm a believer that Dylan is going to throw these check down or short throws that are going to help him. Remember last year against Rutgers, who was the offensive coordinator, who was the play caller versus who's it going to be tomorrow? I'm more confident in the situation than I was watching that game last season. So anyway, a lot to start off. I got to get your guys' thoughts. I'm here to talk to you, not just rant by myself. But what's up, Jim? Thank you for the 1042. He says Michigan State 10, Nebraska 42, 5 touchdowns by pass. Better get Jonathan Smith now because with time, he will have that team right. Stay healthy and go Big Red. You know, it's so interesting. First off, thank you for always being positive. Firing off 32-point projections and wins, sending me super chats and supporting the show. Jim, you're the man. I do believe in Jonathan Smith. And I think Michigan State has what they need to get back into contention, right? But I saw a tweet earlier. It was from a Nebraska page. I don't remember which one. Sorry. It just popped up on my screen, and now it's registering in my head that it was even brought up. It said something along the lines of, how did Luke Fickell fail at Wisconsin when he had such a strong run at Cincinnati? And I thought to myself in that moment, well, it's 100% to do with money and NIL and support. Then it has to do with him obviously bringing in an offensive coordinator who didn't match their identity that they had before and essentially just aborting what worked at Wisconsin and trying to bring in an entirely new system. So it was those two things. But the main one, I think, is the NIL and the support. I don't know that teams like Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan State are going to be able to compete with the Nebraskas, the Oregons, the Penn States, the USCs, the Ohio States, etc. So yeah, I 100% think he's going to get them back to being good. Do I believe right now in the current climate that Michigan State will get back to where they were in like that 2011 to 2017 era? If you guys remember, Michigan State was a playoff contender a few of those years. They had multiple star NFL players coming from that team. Their defenses were always ferocious. Those were really strong Michigan State teams. Do I believe they're going to get back to that? In the new age? No. But I do think they will be a competent opponent in the future. Right now, not so much. Nebraska would have to beat themselves to lose this game. That's my take on it. Again, Jim, thanks for being positive. Saray, thank you for the $2 super chat. I want to see us swarm to the ball on D this game, GBR. And I think we're going to get that kind of a mentality and a vibe. I think the defense feels a little bit responsible for last week. They should feel responsible for that last game. They missed key tackles. And people were saying things to me that I actually didn't agree with, right? They were saying, well, even if Nebraska would have made those stops, Michigan still would have drove down the field and scored on them. And I don't believe that to be true. Nebraska had multiple drives where they were stopping them, at least early on. At the end of the game, they weren't. Michigan figured out how to pierce them, and Nebraska was missing tackles. It just got worse as we went. But in the beginning of the game, when they did break some of those longer runs, there were the broken plays and the missed tackles, it did not feel like Michigan was going to be in position to just drive the ball downfield on him. Nebraska was going to force some punts or force some turnovers. And yeah, I think the defense feels responsible for missing those. So hopefully they play a lot better. I think they will. It's going to be a talent advantage on their end, just not as good of players as they were used to playing. And I would say that this isn't a team that is even as good as Cincinnati. I would say if I was ranking them, it'd obviously be Michigan as the number 1 team they've played this year so far. Cincinnati is the number 2. And then there's no number 3, but I'd put a full team gap between Cincinnati and Michigan State right now. I'm a believer that Cincinnati is a playoff contender, and I think a lot of people will be after they beat Iowa State this weekend. It's my favorite play of the week. So if anybody's asking me for my play, that's the one I'm hammering. 2 unit, 3 unit. I think I'm on for like 3.5 unit actually with all my parlays. But yeah, this won't be as good of a team as Cincinnati was. The weather is going to be a question though. Jose says, I'm not going to lie, I'm still bummed from the loss, but I do think Raiola is a Heisman contender this year. I think Raiola is a Heisman contender if Nebraska wins 10 games. It's just, is Nebraska a team that can win 10 games this year? It's not that they aren't going to be favored to win 10 games, because I honestly believe if Nebraska beats Michigan State, and then if they beat Maryland on the road, they'll be favored in every single game they play this year. Maybe not USC. That's the one But even if they're not favored against USC, that means they will have a 9-win projection by Vegas standards, right? 9-win projection is pretty freaking good. You need one upset. Upset USC or upset Penn State. Both possible, by the way, now that we've watched both those teams lose in the way they did. So Raiola Heisman would require 10 wins. Impossible? Absolutely not. I'm on for $50. After I went on my stream the other day, I told you, 50 pays 4,000. Why not? This is how I look at it. How many times have I been able to bet on the Nebraska Heisman winner and feel like he actually had a chance to win it? 2019 Adrian Martinez, I did feel like he had a chance to win preseason. And I think he was like 6th or 5th in preseason Heisman odds. Crazy to think about after the downfall. He gained the weight. He had the injuries. 2018 was, or 20, was it 19? Yeah, 2019 was just ugly. I think they lost to freaking Purdue that year. Just, ugh. Anyway, bad memories. Point is, if I have a chance to bet on a Heisman winner at Nebraska, I'm doing it. I'm already in for John Mateer for $100. I think $100 pays like 2-something thousand on John Mateer. Love John Mateer. I think he's coming back for the Texas game, by the way. That's going to be next weekend. I will be at that game, my first ever Red River rivalry. Cannot wait. But if I'm going to sprinkle John Mateer, I got to sprinkle Dylan Raiola. So off topic, but you get it. The Star City Rail fan, thanks for being a member. He says, good evening, Connor. In the catastrophic event we lose, should Nebraska be concerned about our season? Yeah, 100%. Catastrophic event that you lose to Michigan State, and now you could lose to Maryland. I would argue if they lose to Michigan State that Minnesota might be the favorite in that game. USC would be the favorite. Penn State would be the favorite. Iowa, I think, would end up being the favorite, even though they're coming to Nebraska. I just think a Michigan State loss would expose a lot of flaws that we haven't seen yet. And we already know Nebraska's lines are the issue, but I think it would take more than the line being an issue this week for them to lose this game. Ugh. I really hope that doesn't happen, brother. I mean, let's just pull up the schedule. Let's just look and see what my outlook would be if they were to lose this week. Hey, if we're going to get morbid, let's get morbid together. Like, don't make me dwell on this by myself when I think about it at home alone. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for bringing this up so we can get it out of the way. A Nebraska loss and what it means. Lose to Michigan State, and you have back-to-back road games. You follow that up with Northwestern. But what do you expect in that stretch with the back-to-back road games? I would say with a loss to Michigan State, they're going 2-1 in that stretch. They're going to lose another one of those two. They're not losing Northwestern, thank God, because Northwestern's so down bad right now. And they're at home for that. But that would take Nebraska to a 3-loss team before November even hit. If you're a 3-loss team before November hit, I cannot say that Nebraska's going to win more than one of these guaranteed. I know they're going to win the UCLA game, but I can't guarantee they'll beat USC or Iowa, and I damn sure don't think they'll beat Penn State. Miracle upsets could happen, but I don't think that's happening. That takes Nebraska to 7 wins on the year, right? 1, 2, 3. Wait, sorry. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. Yeah, like 6 or 7 wins. Ugh. Nebraska winning 7 games this year, in my opinion, would be the ultimate failure. Okay. Last year, although Nebraska only won 6 games in the regular season, it was a 7-win team. They should have won 7 games. Okay. So it felt like that was a 7-win level. If you cannot improve on what you were last year, which is a 7-win level team, and you've got Dylan Raiola in his second season, you've remade the offense with weapons, you got a new offensive coordinator, the hype is an all-time high, then what's the outlook for the next 2 seasons? Because the trajectory was supposed to be Matt Rule year 3, right? And if we're not getting the Matt Rule year 3, then it's like, well, will we get it in year 4? Or will it take until year 5? Because we're now a little bit further behind than we thought. The issue with that becomes long-term recruiting, player buy-in. Do these recruits who Nebraska's trying to land, who are in the upper 4 tier or even a 5-star or 2, do they buy in? Do the transfer guys buy in? Nebraska's trying to get back to winning national championships. I mean, I know the outside landscape says Nebraska's not a national championship contender. They should be happy competing for the Big Ten and winning 10 games a year at best. Kind of like an Ole Miss, okay? no disrespect to Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is freaking awesome. Lane's doing a great job. I love Ole Miss. They're one of my favorite teams in the country. And I think they actually are a contender right now. But I'm talking about Ole Miss of 2021 to 2023, 2024, okay? That's what people think Nebraska's ceiling is. To overcome that ceiling, you have to get to 8 wins this year, in my opinion. 8 wins regular season, not 8 wins plus the bowl, right? 8 wins regular season means Nebraska has a chance to get to 9 with a bowl game. That's when you start to see this growth and you start to see this team coming into true form of we can win big games. We can hang with USC, Penn State, even Oregon consistently. We can take it to the wire with Michigan every single year and not just lose by 3 every time, but pull them out and win, right? It would be catastrophic to lose. Nebraska cannot afford to lose this game. Bottom line, it's at home. You don't lose games at home when you're 10.5-point favorites. Is there any argument to this? Raise your hand. Say aye. I don't hear anything yet, so I'll just wait until the chat responds. Crypto says, going to be a really, really windy game in Lincoln this weekend. Going to hurt Nebraska a lot more than Michigan State. You know, Michigan State, I think, is going to be equally hurt, right? Michigan State's going to try to run the ball a lot. I just don't have as much faith that Michigan State's going to have a great ground attack. I think Nebraska's going to do their best to stack the box. And if there are throws that are errant or whatever, Nebraska's going to have a few takeaways. I think this could be a 2-interception game for Aiden Childs or an interception and a fumble game. I'm really confident in Nebraska being able to create chaos. I'm really confident in their defense. I know last week's defense, or 2 weeks ago, their defensive effort was, a 6, a 5, whatever you want to call it. Pretty weak. Good in the pass, good against the pass, but weak up front. I think this week they're going to have a lot more success. Wind, I'm not as concerned about from that front, but it should affect Nebraska. I just have a lot more confidence in Dylan Raiola, and I have a lot more confidence in Dana Holgorsen being able to call a better game than what Satterfield called last year against Rutgers. I'm strictly betting on that. I mean, I totally understand the thought process, and I initially thought, man, the Wind could make this look a lot like that Rutgers game last year, and then I thought again, wait, it's going to be just fine. We have a lot more competent coordination going on. Let's see. Saray says the last time we finished a season without losing 2 games in a row was 2013. Without losing 2 games in a row? Nebraska could lose 2 in a row this year. They could lose to Penn State and Iowa. That's about the only one. I don't think Nebraska's going to lose 2 games in a row this year, unless it's to Penn State and Iowa, which is crazy to think about. Evan, thank you for the $10 super chat. Thank you for being a member. He says, going to this game, I'm thinking we take it 35-24. Sounds like a cover. Michigan State's better than people think, but I think our matchup advantage over them is similar to the one Michigan had over us, regardless of the win, GBR. I agree with you. I don't know. I think Michigan State's pretty freaking bad right now. I just don't think they have that much talent up front. If you watch the USC game, I went back and watched that last night, the 40-minute version on 1.25x after I watched the Nebraska-Michigan game. There's lack of effort. There's poor tackling. There's lack of size. There's some speed. They had a couple breakaway plays, and then they had a long touchdown pass. They had 2 long touchdown passes, one for the cover at the end of the game, a backdoor, and they had another one that was a breakdown in coverage. I think it was man with the corner at USC. He came up, and the safety didn't help him on the back. I don't think that's – I think that's right. I think corner was in man. Then he got lost. No safety help over top, and guy went to the pylon, scored a touchdown. So Michigan State got – lucky on that play, and against Nebraska, I don't think they'll have those breaks. I'm hoping they don't at least. So, yeah, I just don't think Michigan State's all that. I'm not confident in their abilities to play with Nebraska. Maryland, I'm more concerned about. I actually think Maryland's quarterback's even better than Michigan State's quarterback right now, which is crazy to say, true freshman. Rushy, thank you for the $5 super chat. I think the way to get Pritchett to stop false starting is to keep him in. I like that idea, Rushy. Just force his way. You're going to get brutally punished if you keep false starting because people are going to bag on you. Your teammates are going to be upset with you. Online is going to hate you. So you better figure it out. Learn your lesson. I like that idea. Dylan is good enough to overcome a 5-yard deficit every so often, in my opinion. So I agree with that theory that he's good enough to overcome the 5-yard deficit. The issue has been in the past Nebraska's 5-yard issues are always when it's 3rd and 1 or 2nd and 1. And it pushes them back to 3rd and 6 or whatever it is. And you're like, wait, Nebraska was just at the goal line, or Nebraska was in field goal range. And now that took them out of position. And now the drive is killed and we're not getting points out of it because of that one reason. So it has been a penalty that has been, it's resulted in Nebraska not scoring as many points, right? So in theory, I understand what you're saying, depending on the right time or the right place on the field. But it feels like every time Nebraska ends up with a false start, it's just the most inopportune spot. It's like, wow, we just took ourselves out of position, and now we're not going to get as many points as we should have. And yeah, that's really tough. So I agree with you and disagree with you at the exact same time. Lawrence says, you may have talked about this earlier, but in what ways is Michigan State similar to Michigan? What mistakes should Nebraska avoid making this time? I don't know that I would compare Michigan State to Michigan in any way. I think the only way I would compare them is they're going to be relying on the QB run game because Nebraska's shown that they can't defend that as well. I think they're QB heavy right now. I think he's the best player on their team. He's the most experienced, the most trusted by his coach because he's been with his coach all 3 years. I think that Nebraska's pass defense is so strong that Michigan State's going to try to run the ball at them. So I think they're similar in that regard. But outside of that, I would not compare these two teams. I actually didn't look and see what their specialist has done and how good their kicking game is, which is, I'm sorry, I should have known that answer. How is their special teams? Let's see. I'm just taking a quick glance. Outside of that, though, I just think that they're two very different teams. I would not compare Michigan State to Michigan. Michigan State's kicker in their biggest game against Boston College, the only game that was a quote-unquote real game for them that they won, he was 2 for 2 on field goals. He had a 50-yarder. So that's impressive. I mean, Michigan State, I would expect to have decent to good special teams, you know? So maybe you can compare them in that way. Michigan State was really good on special teams and always has been. But other than that, no, I would not compare the two. Brad, thanks for being here. He says 35-21. I like that. I think a lot of people are thinking 2-touchdown win. A lot of people are thinking Nebraska covers the spread this week. A lot of bettors are thinking that too. Speaking of betting, our sponsor, just so you guys are aware, is BroThrow. They've been our sponsor for multiple years on this channel. It's my favorite site to play on. And when you sign up, you use promo code CORN. Just go to brothrow.com. Promo code is CORN. You get in. They give you a free $10 bet for using the code. I've won over $100,000 on BroThrow in the last 3 years. Okay. So that means I've saved over $10,000 betting with them instead of betting with a site like FanDuel or with a sports book like in Vegas or whatever. So what happens is when I bet $100 on Nebraska minus 11.5, BroThrow pays me, well, the people on BroThrow pay me $100. When I go to Vegas or a sports book and I bet $100 on Nebraska, they only pay me $90. So add that up over every single bet I've made for the last 3 years, and they've taken the sports book has taken $10 each time. That adds up to $10,500. So because I used BroThrow, I earned an additional $10,500 on my winners. That's a significant amount. I don't know if you guys understand this, but when you bet, like the people who don't bet, when you bet on sports, the odds are you're going to go 50%. You're going to win one for every one you lose. It's at 50-50, right? In theory. The good guys win 60%. Okay. So if I win 60%, I need every single dollar I can get to offset my losses. Because if I win, 500 and I lose 400, that's my margin's $100, right? If I do that on a sports book and I win 60%, they take almost all my winnings because of the VIG. So use BroThrow, you save money. I am the biggest testament to that. I've won over $100,000 and I've made over $10,000 using it that I wouldn't have made somewhere else. And I'm passionate about using a site like this because I realize how much it's been a positive impact for me, because $10,000 goes a long way, right? So if you're betting on sports, use it. We'll go over my picks in a minute and I'll show you some of them on there. But I just want to make sure I shouted them out because they're always supporting our channel. Luke Ouija. This is one of those games where you could take most of the overs on prize picks for the Huskers and unders on Childs passing and MSU receiving yards, and you could make a fortune. You would think, but I'm not too sure. We're going to look at the prize picks lines in a minute. Don't worry. I got you. Rod, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the 31-27. We get a W on Saturday, but I think this game will be a bigger battle than some think. 31-27 Nebraska. It could be a bigger battle than some think. Nebraska could come down. This could be a letdown spot for them. I cannot say with full confidence that Nebraska will come out fiery, that they will come out motivated, and that they will come out stronger like they should after a loss to Michigan that was just heart-wrenching, right? And the only reason I can't say that is because they have not proven it yet. When have they? You go back to every single game they lost before, and like go to last year if I look at their schedule. I don't have it pulled up here. I don't even need specific examples. You guys all remember that. You guys all know the history. You guys all remember it. Nebraska loses a game. Who was it to? They lost the game last year. They played UCLA the very next week. It might have been USC. Play UCLA the very next week. They're a huge favorite at home. Obviously, outmatch UCLA in every single way. Coaching, talent, they're at home. I mean, the energy, they should have kicked their ass. And UCLA comes in and proceeds to dunk on them the entire way. And that's not the first time that happened. So, although I'm confident, although I believe, there's not a guarantee. There's not a definitive Nebraska is going to come out fiery because that's who they are. We are still learning what this team's identity is. So Rod, 31-27. I hate to say this, but it very well could be that close. And if it was that close, would I be surprised? Probably not. Would I be disappointed? Absolutely. But let's just hope for my sake, for my bet's sake, that Nebraska comes out and dominates. They need to dominate. They need to build the confidence back. They need to make sure the brand is on fire. The brand was so hot throughout the first month of the season, right? Think about how much people believed, like not just our fan base, but other fans around the country. And then there were a lot of doubters, a lot of haters, a lot of Dylan negativity. And it was like, man, just win one good game, win the games you're supposed to, and then the tables are going to turn. People are going to buy in even more. You lose that game, you just got to get back to that positivity. It would be a huge moment for Nebraska if they could start off 1-0 in October. Think about this. Wait, Nebraska schedule, not Michigan State schedule. We got 4 games in October. Michigan State, Maryland, Minnesota, and Northwestern. Nebraska should be, and in my opinion, will be a favorite in every single one of these games. If they win all 4 of these games, that would take them to 7-1. That would make Nebraska a top 25 team. Any argument? I don't think so. 7-1 Nebraska hosting USC. A USC team who I would argue is going to be a 2, possibly even a 3-loss team at that point in the season. Coming into Lincoln for what I would expect and hope to be a night game. A blackout in the former Sea of Red. Are you kidding me? 7-1 with that on deck. Just what will the vibe, what will the feeling be around your home? What do you think it'll be around our channel? Nebraska, undefeated in October, is going to set the stage for another Michigan moment. Another opportunity to beat a team who I think you're supposed to beat at home and put yourself on the center stage. Put yourself in position to make the playoff. If you beat USC, you're 2 games away. Technically 3 because UCLA, but no. You beat USC at home and you're beating USC, or you're beating UCLA the next week. And then it comes down to Penn State and Iowa. 2 teams who Nebraska could beat. 2 teams who have shown in the past that they're a little bit more consistent on defense. I mean, even on offense when they play against Nebraska. But 2 teams that Nebraska could beat. October sets the stage for what could be a magical season. October can, I hate saying this word. It's not right. October is the moment where you can save the season. Okay? And I don't mean save the season because Nebraska's down bad and winning 9 games isn't going to be good enough. No, that's not what I mean. Save the season for what some extremist projected Nebraska could be. Like a Josh Pate, like a Will Compton, like a me at times, saying Nebraska could go 10-2 and get to the playoff. October is so freaking important because it's not just about getting the wins you need to get to a bowl game or getting the wins you need to meet the bare minimum expectation of 9 wins, but it sets you up to make a run, to get to the playoff, and to have a chance going into the end of November. How awesome is that? October's a massive month, man. I'm stressed out just thinking about it. 3 games that are serious. I mean, Maryland, Michigan State, and Minnesota, all teams Nebraska's going to be favored over, but, serious opponents. They're not pushovers. Even though Nebraska's a 10-point favorite this week, even though they'll be a 6-point favorite next week, even though at Minnesota they're going to be a 3-point favorite, I don't care. Those games are all meaningful. You have to get up for every single one. And in the past, Nebraska gets up for 2 of them. They sleep for 1. They lose that one, and then that creates this compound effect and this ripple, like a snowball rolling down a hill. And then you lose to Minnesota, and you followed up with the loss to USC. Then you wrap things up with the loss to Penn State, and we're all sitting here like, God damn, Nebraska's fighting for 8 wins against Iowa. How can this be? And then Iowa beats you. You get to 7 wins, and we're here again. Anyway, I'm not manifesting that energy. Beating Michigan State, beating Maryland, beating Minnesota, and then all bets are off. We're talking Dylan Raiola Heisman all over again. So keep that energy, homie. I'm so excited. There's a lot to be excited about. It just starts with a win tomorrow. It's 1-0 each week. I'm getting ahead of myself, I know. Lawrence says, food for thought, if Wisconsin loses to Michigan this weekend, will Fickell be fired? I don't know that answer. I'm not that in tune with the inner workings of the Wisconsin football program right now. I do think Fickell is on his way out. I mean, what are they going to do? Just keep doing the same thing that isn't working? It's so clear and so obvious that his plan didn't go as expected, and he would have to create an entirely new one if he wanted to be successful at Wisconsin. He's not going to continue this exact same thing and hope that it works. I don't think it will. I mean, is Wisconsin going to tolerate that? Wisconsin is a team who prides themselves on championships, Big Ten championships, competing in the biggest games, and they're a shell of themselves. They don't have the O-line. They don't have the skill position play. They don't have any of their traditional format in place. They have, I don't even know what they are. Their identity is completely lost. What they had hoped to be never became, right? So Wisconsin needs to move on, obviously. How soon does it come? I don't know. Michigan's going to beat them this weekend, by the way. 17.5-point favorite. Michigan's going to win that game by at least 10. Even if they sleep at the wheel, Michigan is so much more physical and so much more competent than them. They're now, Michigan has tasted blood. So Michigan's been shit on. They said, if you can't beat Oklahoma, you're probably going to be a 3-loss team. They said Bryce Underwood's a true freshman. This is a rebuild year. I'm one of those people who said it's a rebuild year. They made Michigan feel like they weren't legitimate. And now that Michigan beat Nebraska on the road, and now that Michigan has seen that they can go toe-to-toe with the best quarterback in the country, I think they're believers in themselves that they're a playoff team once again. And now that they're fully bought in, their head coach is back, I do believe they're in position to win 10 games. So Michigan should kick their ass this week. Michigan's out for blood. Michigan wants to win every single game from here on out. That Oklahoma loss stung. And you could see the way they played against Nebraska. I mean, teams that play with serious energy and belief in themselves, and we're talking Florida State against Alabama, Alabama against Georgia, Oregon against Penn State, Michigan against Nebraska. Teams like that are really freaking hard to beat. When did we see Nebraska play like that? Against Colorado last season. When else? I don't know, unfortunately. We don't see it enough from Nebraska is the point. If you see it more out of Nebraska, we're going to see a lot more dominating wins. You know when we saw it? We saw it against Akron. But we got to see it against other teams. We got to see it against teams where they feel like we can put our foot on their throat, go full pedal to the metal, and make them feel us the entire way through. Like Michigan did to us last week, or 2 weeks ago. When Michigan was jumping up and down the sidelines, you knew they were out for it. And they believed in themselves. They did not think for a second they could lose that game. And yeah. That's my take on Michigan, my take on Wisconsin. I'm just giving you guys random takes. You know how it goes. Emmett, thank you for the $5 super chat. Thank you for being a member. I'm going to change my score prediction from the other night and go 35-17, 18-point win. I don't hate it. Mainly because of the potential for 35-plus win gusts. You know, I don't know what your original score prediction was. I forgot, Emmett. Is it less points for Michigan State or more points for Nebraska you're changing? Or sorry, less points for Nebraska you're changing. You got to tell me. I'm still taking the over on Nebraska's point total. Nebraska's point total is set at 30.5. I think Nebraska scores 31 on these guys. Nebraska scored 20 on Cincinnati, but they were at the door knocking for another touchdown, and it was the first game of the season, whereas this is the fifth. They're a lot more confident. They know who they are and what they have. They should be able to score a bit more. Even with the win, if it does suppress the passing attack a little bit, I think Emmett Johnson's going to be able to run for 75 yards at least, and that'll open the door up for some big drives. So I'm taking the over at 31.5. I think Nebraska wins this game something like 35-21, maybe something like that. I don't know yet. We'll see. I'm excited, though. I'm very confident. Michigan State has better receivers than Michigan, in my opinion. Will be nice to see how our secondary does. I think Michigan State has a really complete receiving core of average receivers. I think Michigan had one receiver in Donovan McCulley and then nothing else behind him, right? I don't think it matters either way. I just don't see Michigan State being able to pass on Nebraska. I don't think anybody's going to be able to pass that well on Nebraska. Cincinnati had one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos in the Big 12, or has one of the best in the Big 12, and they still weren't able to get it done. They had a great balance of power with their tight end, who's an NFL tight end, of speed with Cyrus Allen and the other guy who transferred from Colorado State, and Cincinnati still was unable to do anything against that Nebraska defense. Who is going to be able to? USC? I mean, there's no team on this schedule that I'm looking at right now who's going to be able to really make a dent in the passing yards category. I just think Nebraska's pass defense is going to be really strong this year. They're so experienced. They're so veteran. Yeah, I'm not that. I don't care who the receivers are. I just don't think I don't think there's any team out there that's going to throw for more than 100 on Nebraska. It's all about trying to run the ball, force Nebraska into some mistakes, because Nebraska's been prone to do that, you know? Jake, thanks for being a member. He says, I'm thinking about parlaying Nebraska money line in Maryland plus 6.5 this week at plus 134. How do you feel about that? I 100% like that. I'm taking Maryland plus the 6.5. I'm also taking Maryland money line. I have a money line parlay with Maryland and Florida, and I have another one with Florida State and Maryland. I think those are my couple. I like it. Maryland's good. I think Maryland's severely underrated. You know, the books underrate Maryland. They overrate Texas. Those are two things I've noticed. So don't doubt Maryland. Brad, thanks for being a member. Thank you for the $10 super chat. If Nebraska scores touchdowns in the red zone versus field goals, we cover by 17. Hell yeah. If Nebraska can figure it out in the red zone, Nebraska's going to dominate. Okay, this game reminds me a little bit of what we saw last year with Wisconsin. Do you remember that? Wisconsin comes to Nebraska. What week was that? Was that before the Iowa game? Let me see. Wisconsin, Nebraska, 2024. I believe, yes, it was the week after UCLA, the week before Iowa. And Nebraska scored 44 points that day. They dominated the entire way through. Obviously, Wisconsin had some deep pass plays and they broke off a few good runs, but Nebraska was able to, you know, assert their dominance the entire way through. I think they scored like almost 10 points every single quarter. I say that to say I think this game could be similar. It could look kind of the same. And I say it could look kind of the same because I think these teams, Michigan State and Wisconsin, are kind of in similar spots. Michigan State, they're on the upcoming, and Wisconsin at that time was on a slope down. But from a talent level perspective, I think they're pretty similar. Michigan State obviously has a better quarterback than they did, but outside of that, yeah, I think a similar moment. I'm excited for it. Broad, thank you for the 20 gifted memberships. We appreciate the support. Everybody in the chat loves it. Thank you a lot, brother. 10X says Nebraska could win out the rest of the way if they win the war in the trenches. Nebraska would win out the rest of the way if they won the war in the trenches. Unfortunately, we cannot confidently say they're going to, right? That's been the biggest freaking issue. Hate that, but you know, is what it is. We're going to have to see if Nebraska can figure out a way to get their offensive line to be a little bit more disciplined, not as slow, not miss stupid blocks, you know? Wrinkly Beef says we can't lose twice with Connor in town. Please don't lose with USC in town. I really want that to be a win. I would be brokenhearted if I went to 2 losses this year. Lad says, man, you way overhyped Nebraska. Okay, where? Just tell me where I overhyped them. Give me specific things. Just making blanket statements without letting me defend it or expand on it does not help anything. It's just firing randomness. I don't even remember what I would have said that would have overhyped them. Saying that they could potentially go 4-0 in October and have a chance to get to the playoff is not overhyping them. Now, predicting them to do it could potentially be overhyping them. I would agree with you, but I didn't predict it. Not yet. I might. I haven't even made a prediction for this game yet. I've given ideas, but no full prediction. Saray says, with all the firings going on, do you think Holgorsen will take one of them at the end of the season, or will he stay being a coordinator? That's interesting. You know, I think the tough part for Holgorsen is going to be knowing where he wants to be. And depending on what jobs open up and which ones come calling for him, it might be too tempting, right? If it's like, oh, I really want to be at school X and this is the one opportunity and my one moment to get there, I've got to leave. However, he might increase his stock by coming back one more year with Dylan as a senior, with Ja'Cory, or not as a senior, as a junior in his last year, Ja'Cory Barney as a junior. Nebraska's offense now humming in their second year with Holgorsen full time. So if he does get Nebraska up and they do improve even more, he'll get an even better job than he would get this cycle. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what job opportunities come. And I think we saw that same thing with Tony White, right? Tony White didn't leave until he got that Florida State offer. And hopefully the same thing for Holgorsen, I would hope. I mean, we'll see. Regardless, I was really, I don't want to say like paranoid or nervous that Nebraska would lose any coordinators. But what's happening now is there's so much happening in college football. There's so much shift taking place that there are guys all over the place who are becoming available. And even at smaller schools or whatever, Rule is so connected that if they did lose Holgorsen, I'm confident he'd be able to go find someone else to replace him pretty quickly, someone who's good. So it would suck because you got to go and rebuild the offense a bit, and you want to get some consistency back there. Let your quarterback be familiar with their play caller and all that. But leaving Dylan Raiola going into his senior or his junior season when he's going to be the number one pick in the draft the year after, that might be a lot to pass up. So I'm going to right now say 75% chance Dana Holgorsen returns to Nebraska right now with the way everything's playing out. But we'll have to see. Josh says people were also saying Rule couldn't recruit. People were saying that Rule couldn't recruit. The first comment was this. Remember when people were saying Fickle was a better hire than Rule? I do remember this. I was borderline thinking that he could be. And I was like, wow, that's crazy that they went for Rule over Fickle. Obviously, we were proved wrong. Thank God. And then he was saying that people also said Rule couldn't recruit. Rule wasn't the same Rule that he is today, to be fair. And I think the important thing is Rule was willing to adjust and willing to become the coach he had to be once he got to Nebraska, even though a lot of the things that he's doing now aren't things that he did at Baylor and at Temple or at Carolina, right? So he's grown into this coach. So a lot of critiques that he had and a lot of things that people said were negatives about him, they may have been true at the time, but it was because people didn't realize that there was this underlying idea and philosophy he had, and he was willing to go outside the box and do whatever it took to get to the point he's at today. And that's what made him a spectacular coach. He didn't get hired because he had already proven that he could build the brand the way he's built this brand. He didn't get hired because he could recruit at the level he's recruiting right now, because he hadn't done that before, right? He got hired because the people who interviewed him and the people who knew and talked to him said, wow, he has the makings of a successful person. He has the makings of a true leader. And even though we don't know exactly how he's going to come in and run this, take over as a CEO and run this program the right way, we don't know like the intricate details. We know that he's going to figure it out because he's a smart guy and we trust him. So I just like to be empathetic towards the people who made comments like that because, you know, it was true to some degree. We had not seen Matt Rule recruit the way he's recruiting right now. This is spectacular. He's at the top of his game. Matt Rule is I would argue Matt Rule is the hottest he's ever been. Even though he won 11 games at Baylor, I think he's hotter right now than he was before. I just think more people know about him. They realize, they're like, wow, he's doing something special. And a lot of people who are in college football would argue this guy is going to be the real deal. And although Nebraska might not have the team and the potential or the talent right now to get to the playoff, he is a coach who will consistently coach playoff teams. It's just my thinking. I could be wrong. Probably not, though. Emmett, thank you for the $2 super chat. He says 42-21 is what his first score prediction was. So you're saying Nebraska scores 7 less. You're saying that Michigan State scores 4 less. I'll take it. A little bit lower scoring game because of the heat and the wind. I hope not. You know, that game last year against Rutgers was so ugly. It was, I don't want to say it was boring to watch because it wasn't boring. But when I think back to the entire schedule last season, it was one of the games where I was kind of like, I can't wait for it to get done. Does that make sense? I was just ready for it to be over. I think because it was just slow paced. It wasn't flashy. There weren't a lot of points. I was a bit frustrated with the way Dylan was playing. He didn't throw any touchdown passes. It was one of the worst games of the season, even though it was a win. I think that sums it up. Chris says Cincinnati keeps getting better and better each week. Great chance they beat Iowa State on the road. I think they're going to beat Iowa State, and they're at home this week. It's going to be exciting. Iowa State's out both their corners, I saw. Pretty insane. College football 360. Sup Connor, Childs is playing pretty good. MSU secondary won't be able to do much at all against Nebraska passing attack. 38-13 win, GBR. I hope you're right, brother. Yeah, Childs isn't a bad QB. You go to his stats. So Childs on the year, 70 for 102, almost 70% completion, with almost 1,000 yards, 9 TDs, and only 1 pick. And then, has he run? Yeah, 39 carries, 154 yards, 2 TDs. So he's a dual threat, a legit dual threat. But it only means so much when you don't have a supporting cast around you. And you could argue Bryce Underwood doesn't have that great of a supporting cast around him, but you look at his offensive line, you look at his defense, you look at his running back room. I mean, yeah, that guy's got a lot more help than a guy like Aiden Childs does, which really is the reason that Childs isn't as respected, I would say, as some of these other quarterbacks in the Big Ten, even though his stat line looks really freaking good, Colby says after last weekend, we better beat USC this year. Colby, you can't look at one individual week and think you're supposed to win the game. Think about USC fans looking at Illinois after they lost to Indiana. And they probably typed this exact same comment on Trojan Blades channel. And they probably said, after last weekend, USC better beat Illinois. They're going to kick their ass because Illinois just lost 63-10. Individual results mean nothing, right? Individual results, kind of like Nebraska against UCLA last year. Nebraska losing to UCLA last year at home was disgust. I mean, just absolute embarrassment. I was in Oklahoma watching that game. I don't know why. I think I was at the Arkansas Ole Miss game, actually. And after the Arkansas Ole Miss game, I went home and watched that. And then I made a reaction from my dad's office in Oklahoma. And I had a meltdown. I was upset. I was so frustrated. Like, how the do you lose to UCLA? Are you kidding me? UCLA in year one with Deshaun Foster. That team is just, they're put together and they're trying to salvage what they had because they lost a bunch of guys to the portal and a bunch of guys to the NFL. And they came to Lincoln, Nebraska and beat us. That was so gross. My point in saying that is you can't look at one individual game and set that as the identity for the team for the entire season. Nebraska was a better team than UCLA was last year, despite one loss to that team, right? And USC is a better team than their one loss to Illinois. And Illinois is a lot better team than a lot of people are giving them credit for. They still could very well finish as a top 25 team with 9 wins. So anyway, Colby, just giving you a different perspective. Matt says, Connor, do you think Dylan will win the Heisman? 50 of my dollars thinks he will. 50 to win 4K. I don't think right now that we can talk about Heisman. However, I talked about this a second ago. We'll go back to it. If Nebraska goes undefeated in October, the Heisman hype ramps up. Top 6, maybe top 7 in odds at that point. Nebraska would be 7-1 going into USC. Beat USC, bam, Heisman hype. Now he's a real contender. And then it's going to rely on Penn State. If Nebraska could beat Penn State, now we're talking about send him to New York. Because for Nebraska to win games against teams like USC, against teams like Penn State, Dylan is going to have to be the face. Dylan is going to have to throw for 275 plus yards each game, 2, maybe 3 touchdowns, and really carry the team to victory, right? And that's when you earn your Heisman moment. That's when you earn the respect from the national media, and that's when you get your way into New York, or wherever the hell the Heisman is going to be held this year. The point is, right now, no. But if you're a betting man like me, and you think Nebraska's going undefeated in October, like I do, maybe sprinkle 50 on it. 50 pays 40 or 4,000. I mean, 50 you spend on at Chipotle in a month. Like, it's just $50. Time will tell. I think that's the bottom line. Right now, my number one is John Mateer. I'm so hot on John Mateer. I mean, dual threat, good looking, already proved that he's a good quarterback based on last season. Now he's at OU with a much better cast around him, and OU's defense is legit. They will keep them in the playoff conversation. I love John Mateer, and I know the Heisman voters love dual threat quarterbacks. So my big Heisman bet is on him. Now, 100, I think it's 100 I've got on him, something like that. 100 only pays like 2,000 something, but it's still something. Also, the Chipotle thing was hilarious this week when the message board, there's a guy, like an anonymous account on the message board, on a Texas A&M message board, and it said, I was just in line at Chipotle, and John Mateer was standing in front of me. The worker asked him, the guy making the burrito, the tortilla presser, said, hey, are you going to play against Texas? And Mateer said yes. And then this random guy went and put that in the Texas A&M bulletin board, like private member group. And it went viral on Twitter, obviously. Everyone's like, oh, is this a lie? Is it true? You know, messing around, being funny. And then yesterday, a guy posted up, I think it was a guy or a mom, whatever. And they said, this is my kid with John Mateer at Chipotle. And it was so funny because it like all but confirmed it to be true, you know? I really hope John Mateer comes back for Texas. I really hope, because I'm going to that game and it'll make it so freaking awesome. I just want to watch good players play, you know? I respect college football. I respect the best players. So anyway, I know it started with, Connor, do you think Dylan will win the Heisman? And we just went on a whole tangent, but you know, those are my Heisman thoughts initially. Sam, he says USC had a good running back room. Connor, hope Nebraska improved their run defense. I don't know that Nebraska needed to improve their run defense. I think Nebraska's run defense is what it is, and they need to be solid. But I don't think Nebraska had that big of an issue. I think we all oversold it because watching Michigan break off those big runs was just painful. And watching them do it 3 times in a row was like, this is disgust. But Nebraska's run defense is right now serviceable. There are no teams in the month of October who are going to abuse them. Now, can they run for over 100 yards on Nebraska's run defense? Yes. Are they going to run wild on Nebraska's defense and break off 75-yard runs? I freaking hope not. If we watch that Michigan performance all over again, all bets are off. This could be a 7-win team. Who freaking knows? That would be, just dust me. I don't even want to talk about it. But I'm confident right now that Nebraska's run defense will be good enough to limit Michigan State to what? 150 yards rush at most, I would hope. Would they allow for Cincinnati? Let me check. Cincinnati ran for 202, and they still didn't win. You hold Michigan State to 150 yards rushing, even 200, you can still win the game. I think Nebraska's offense will be better, so much better than Michigan State's defense this time around, as opposed to what it looked like against Cincinnati, that they're going to score 30 at least. If they score 30 at least, I'm not worried about the rush D. They're going to be just fine. But USC could be a problem. And that's what your point was. USC has a really good run game. USC's got 2 stud running backs. USC is an interesting team, you know? It's like they've got some coaching issues, play calling issues. USC fans don't trust Lincoln Riley at all. Who knows what's going to happen if they lose to Michigan? You know, I'm so interested to watch that game. That's next weekend in the Coliseum. Right now it's a pick 'em. I'm conflicted. Like my betting heart, like my logical bet on a team mindset would say take USC. They're coming off a loss. It's basically an even line. It's a revenge spot for USC, who was a favorite going into Ann Arbor last year and then just let it slip away at the hands of I don't even know what quarterback. Okay? USC should, in my head, win that game against Michigan. But logically, when I look at football and when I watch the games, Michigan beat a Nebraska team that I think is as good as USC. And they beat them in Nebraska when Nebraska needed that game more than ever, when Nebraska wanted that game more than ever, and they were still strong enough to overcome it. What that tells me is Michigan is probably one of the better teams in the Big Ten. I talked about this on my show earlier this week. If Michigan is one of the better teams in the Big Ten, like a top 3, top 4 team, up there right behind Ohio State, Oregon, and I guess Penn State, Indiana. They're not worse than Indiana in my opinion. I think Michigan's the same as Indiana. I think USC's gonna have a hard time with them. So who knows how USC will be looking at the time they play Nebraska? I don't know. It's a long way out. But I hear what you're saying. Minnie, hi. Hello, never mind me. Looking forward to it. You guys are gonna do a show, or you guys are gonna do something? Hi, Minnie. It was Minnie's birthday the other day. I told her happy birthday. You guys should too. Minnie's a big Corn Cray supporter. She and I will be going to the USC game. We were just talking about it. Cannot wait. But I'm happy you're here. Thanks. Juan says, sorry I'm late. Do we think we play younger guys at tackle? Maybe on defense too. No. I don't know what younger guys they would play at tackle. Like, are they going to bring in Grant Bricks? I I don't think so. I think the only tackle switch we see is Elijah Pritchett. That's my prediction, but who freaking knows? On defense, younger guys, they're already playing a lot of younger guys. Rex Guthrie, Dawson Merritt plays. Cade Petschok plays. I mean, what other young guys are going to play? Only so many young guys on the field, right? They have a really good rotation on defense already. So we'll have to see. Real comedy cam. I rewatched the Michigan game 4 times, and I will tell you with complete confidence, I didn't see much bad with the expectation of the couple big runs we let loose. We let loose. That's how I felt, brother. So when Nebraska played that game, there were a couple things that I didn't like. Number one was the offensive line breaking down multiple times and looking slow. That was frustrating to me. It felt like they didn't give the proper effort, right? Number two was the breakaway runs, which meant their defensive line wasn't in position and they just got moved out of the way by bigger and stronger offensive linemen. And then their defensive backs and linebackers weren't in position to make the tackle that they needed to. Those are the two. The last thing was when Michigan was in 3rd down and 8 and then 3rd down and 5 or whatever, that it was a shorter distance. And it was towards the end of the game within the last 7 minutes or 9 minutes, whatever it was. And Nebraska just needed one freaking stop. They couldn't get the stop. Little bullshit swing passes, and then the running back would run around the edge, and then the linebacker would just miss the tackle out in one-on-one coverage. You know, he's got to make the tackle one-on-one. Doesn't do it. Those things hurt so freaking bad. And watching it on TV ripped my heart open again. So it was those 3 things really that made me upset. Outside of that, Nebraska looked good. Nebraska looked like a team who could win 9 games this year. Nebraska did not look as bad as our feelings felt, right? We were freaking hurt after that game. But we were hurt because of the explosive plays. We were hurt because they couldn't stop them when they needed to, right? So rewatching the game when you're a little bit more logical and when you're not in your emotional state opens your eyes up. It's really nice to rewatch them. Jano says, what are some things that Michigan State does do you think could cause some problems for the game this Saturday? I think the only thing Michigan does that could cause problems is, number one, QB run. Nebraska struggled with that. So if they run split receivers, like 3 guys out wide, and Nebraska's trying to cover those guys, and they're not running QB spy or whatever it is that make sure that they don't get gashed by the quarterback, that could result in a few first downs or plays that get them into position to kick field goals or score points. That's one. The other thing is, if Michigan State says, screw it, we're going to fully commit to heavy run game, and we're going to find a way to gash Nebraska because we know they're going to have to stack the box, and then we're going to do some play actions, roll out, do little dump passes over the top, that could be a problem. What we have seen from Michigan State so far is not threatening. What we have watched against USC and against Boston College does not concern me. It's what they could potentially do with the talent they have at their disposal. Do they try and line up on Nebraska and hit them where it hurts? Why wouldn't you? If you're not talented enough to meet them where they're at and win the game, which they're not, you're going to have to throw a wrinkle in. Kind of like what we've seen Nebraska do in the past when they play up. Like when they go and play in Ohio State on the road last season, and Nebraska only loses by what? I don't know, 4 points? They lost that game close. I don't know how many it was. But they could have won it. They had the ball at the end of the game. Dylan threw the pick. Point is, they could come out and they could adjust some things. And they could say, screw it, we're going to go after Nebraska because we're not going to win traditional. We're not going to win playing our brand of football. Nebraska's just better than us. So what wrinkle can we throw in? That's what I'm concerned about. We'll have to see. Are we talking about Matt Rule being hot? What are we talking about? The chat confuses me sometimes. I don't read everything, so when I read things out of context, I'm like, what? Matt, thank you for the $5 super chat. Does Dylan win the Heisman this year? Well, I just talked about this. Maybe you popped your super chat after I talked about it. I talked about the path. But I don't think right now Dylan's a Heisman contender. I think a winning October gets him into position, and I think a win over a USC sets the stage. I think the trip to New York comes on either. I mean, you could still get a trip to New York with wins over Iowa and USC. With a winning October. You have to go undefeated in October for Dylan Raiola to be a Heisman contender, in my opinion. I don't know how you could be a Heisman contender with a loss to Minnesota or Maryland. Or Michigan State. I don't I don't think it would make sense, because a loss to one of those teams means that Nebraska's offense stalled. It means that Nebraska didn't throw it well enough, because those teams are not going to put up a bunch of points on Nebraska. I know that for a fact. If they did, I'd be like, what the hell happened? It's not like these offenses we're playing are extremely capable and Nebraska's defense is going to have some meltdown. So, yeah, the path is win all of those games, and then we can have a conversation about it. Jackal says Childs will give some problems with scrambling. I think that's the main thing people talk about, right? Most people think that the QB run is Nebraska's weakness, and that's what scares them. Connor, thank you for being a member. Do you think it's possible for Nebraska to even have another Heisman winner? Like, ever? Or like this year? If we're saying ever, I mean, brother, Nebraska's recruiting classes are solid. Nebraska's buy-in from their team and where they're going shows that they're going to be a perennial contender. A perennial contender who has 5-star, high 4-star talent will always have players who are fully capable of winning the Heisman Trophy. It's about winning the games to get you there, right? Having those Heisman moments and those performances that push you over the edge. Ever 1,000 freaking %. Now, if we're talking about, will Nebraska have another Heisman winner in the next 5 years, that's a lot trickier. I would argue Nebraska is in a very favorable spot. You have Dylan Raiola, who I believe is going to be the #1 pick in next year's draft. The year after next year. He's automatically going to be a Heisman favorite going into next season. Even if Nebraska only wins 7 games this year. Even if they get to 7-5, they go to their bowl game, hypothetically they win that as well. They finish the season 8-5. Nebraska next year is a top 25 team coming out. They were the youngest team in the Big Ten this season. They return a ton of guys, and I already know they're spending to replace their needs in the portal. Nebraska will be probably a top 20, maybe even bordering top 15 team going into 26. With all of that, and with a quarterback who's projected to be the #1 pick in his class, we're talking about top 3 in the Heisman odds. Top 4 at the worst. There's a lot of Heisman players right now who will be gone next year. Some who won't be gone are Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith. Who else? Bo Prabula, I don't believe will be gone. The quarterback at Alabama will be. The quarterback at LSU will be. The quarterback at Ole Miss will return. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to go through the entire list. You get my point. Nebraska is going to have Heisman contender players at least for the next couple of years if they continue to recruit at the level they're recruiting, because their team is going to be good. Good teams have Heisman players usually. We'll see. It is 100% possible, though. Yes. Dave, thank you for being a member. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the 38-17. At a dinner, wanted to drop my prediction. Dylan has a highlight day, 38-17 NU. They were all business during the press conference this week. I think they want to make a statement. Dave, I'm bought in. 38-17. Dave, I'm doubling up. I'm already on Nebraska, but we're getting more on Nebraska. I can't. My enthusiasm has overtaken me. I've got a lot on Nebraska already, but the press conference, are you kidding me? You're bringing that into it? Okay, Brad B. He's got $100 on Michigan State plus 11.5. I'm going to jump on that. Nebraska minus 11.5 for 100. 100 pays 100 on bro throw. Bang. Verify my location. How do I do it? What's wrong with my location? Let's see if this works. I want this bet so bad right now while I'm bought in. I can't get it because my location. Are you kidding me? I have to do it after. Dave, you got me so excited. Now I have to wait till after the stream. I'm taking that bet. I'm doubling down because I think you're right. It's going to be a show. Nebraska wants it back. Nebraska wants to prove that they aren't in that bad spot that they were after Michigan. They don't want to let that bad taste in their mouth that they've tasted for 2 weeks to linger any longer. It's time to fix it. I don't have my phone right here. BroThrow got an app. I was just going to go pop it up on the app and do it right now, but I don't have my phone on me. I left it in the living room. BroThrow has an app now, by the way. If you haven't downloaded the BroThrow app, make sure you download the BroThrow app. And when you do it, use code CORN to sign up and get your $10 bet. But Dave, I'm with you. I'm excited for it. I believe. Evan, thank you for the $20 super chat. Couple questions. One, is there a world where Cincy is the third or fourth best team we play this year? Let's start there. Is there a world? Brother, come on. A world? Nebraska schedule. We're going to rank how I feel Nebraska's schedule is right now, team by team. Okay. Screen share. Number one team Nebraska plays this year, in my opinion, is Michigan. That's number one. Number two team Nebraska plays this year is Penn State. That's number two. Number three team Nebraska plays this year, honestly, this is not joking. I'm not trying to be overhyping anything. It's between USC and Cincinnati. And right now, I think those two teams are equal right now. We need to learn more about Cincinnati, but if they win this week against Iowa State, a top 15 team in the nation, Cincinnati's going to be in the top 25. USC won't be. Iowa won't be. Northwestern won't be. Maryland won't be. Minnesota won't be. Michigan State won't be. Already, Cincinnati's the third best team on their schedule. So is there a world? I think it might be an expectation. It's going to come down to either USC or Cincinnati. That's insane. Cincinnati at worst is the fourth best team they play this year. Right now, things could change. Injuries happen. Some teams get better. Maybe Maryland shows up and goes undefeated the rest of the year and we're like, whoa, we had no idea. I'm not banking on that. Cincinnati's legit. Put some respect on their name. Not you, but everybody else. 2, over under Dylan, 30 TDs, 3,500 yards. Let's go to his stats right now. I think that's over. Nebraska stats. Let's see. Maybe the 3,500 is a lot. 11 TDs in 4 games, right? So 11 and 4 puts him on. Yeah, he's on pace. He's on pace right now for 33. So 30, I would take the over right now on that. For 3,500 yards, what's 1,137 times 3? That's 3,400. I would still take the over on. He's on pace for 3,400 right now. I would take the over on that and the touchdowns. Nebraska's going to have to play come behind against Penn State, USC, maybe even Ohio, or Iowa. You never know. Those are going to be tight games. Most of these games Nebraska plays in are going to be 3, 4, 5-point games. They're going to have to throw the ball to win. I'm taking the over on both of those. 3, does Iowa concern you more than USC? Yes. The reason Iowa concerns me is not because Iowa's a better team than USC. Iowa, I'd actually argue at this point in the season, isn't even as good of a team as Maryland is. Crazy to say. Iowa is a problem because Iowa plays shit football and they make the team they're playing play shit football. Look at Indiana, Iowa last week. Indiana gets out of that with a 5-point win. It was discussed. Indiana's obviously way better than Iowa is. In my opinion, every year Nebraska's played Iowa, they're a better team than Iowa is, minus maybe 2 of the years. The brand of football is so gross, and it's so tricky for Nebraska to stoop to their level that it's concerning every time they get on the field with them. So, yeah, I'm more concerned about Iowa than USC this year, but I'm also more concerned about Iowa than most teams on this schedule. I would have said I was more concerned about Iowa than I was about Michigan. Dead ass. So that tells you how much respect I have for Iowa's shitty gameplay. Also, I may propose to girlfriend this weekend, so wish me luck. May? Why don't we fully commit, Evan? I got to hear the story. You've got to maybe send a picture or something. That's awesome. I feel like you've been in the chat forever and like we know each other so well. I didn't even know you were about to propose. Let's rock. Send a picture or something in the Discord or to my DM. I got to see this. That's awesome. I hope you figure out if you're going to or not. That's exciting. If we lose this game, don't do it because the energy is just not right. You know, my friend's dad is like, he's into the stars and like the placement of lines on your hands and all that, and like your garage door facing the right way on the street and all these things. He would probably tell you, don't propose to your girlfriend the weekend Nebraska loses a game they're supposed to win. So let's just maybe determine if you're going to do it or not after Saturday at 2:30 p.m. We'll figure it out from there. Losing to Michigan State's unacceptable. Let's see. Matt, thank you for the $20 super chat. Do you think Nebraska can keep up with Texas in the playoffs? That's an interesting question right now. Yes. Texas is a joke. Texas is severely overrated. I don't understand the hype. Obviously, I have a really good defense, but when you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a team. Texas doesn't have a good quarterback. And people can argue he could turn it on at any time. And if he does turn it on, Texas goes back to being a top 5, top 10 team in the country. But right now, anybody with a pulse can compete with Texas. Florida is going to compete with Texas this week. That game's a 6.5 point spread. Texas was supposedly the number 1 team in the country to start this year. So yeah, Nebraska could compete with the Texas. Now, would they win against the Texas? You've got a serious coaching staff over there, a real defense. The talent is insane on both sides of the ball, right? Their only thing holding them back is their passing game. And that's a big piece of the puzzle for that team. I still think Texas is a 9-win team this year. I think they're going to lose 3 games. We'll see. Maybe they prove me wrong. But yeah, Nebraska, Texas is a crazy conversation. The dynamic is interesting, right? Like Nebraska has the QB and receiving piece figured out. They don't have the line thing figured out. And they're not as consistent on defense. Whereas Texas, they're proven commodities on both those sides. So that'd be a really interesting matchup. I would love to see it. Wow. That'd be really interesting. Jackal says, isn't Rule winless against Lincoln Riley? I do believe so. Yes, I think he is winless. Doesn't change my opinion on the future, though. The past does not dictate the future. Matt says, did you get to watch Oregon Penn State? I did. So my dad flew out to Arizona last weekend and from Vegas, and we watched Ole Miss LSU first at a bar at, what was it called? Social Tap in Old Town. Came back to my apartment. He loves how I decorated my apartment. He's a big fan. My apartment is fire. Like, I put a lot of money into it and a lot of time. I'm very happy with it. Anyway, we watched LSU Ole Miss. Then we watched the end of Mississippi State and Tennessee. Then I watched both Oregon and Alabama, Georgia, side by side. The perfect Saturday? Not the perfect Saturday. Top 5% on the entire year? Top 3%. I mean, it was a fantastic Saturday. Those 2 games were so freaking good. They were so fun to watch. And I got to watch it with my dad. And we both had significant amount of money on it. So that made it more sweaty and more stressful. Fun day, man. Fun day to watch college football and just not leave the house. I started my day on a plane. I watched the USC-Illinois game on a plane. But outside of that, the rest of the day was fantastic. Love college football games and love watching them. Just like, you know how I am. I'm not going to miss those. Todd, finally catching you live for the first time in a while. I have to see trench improvement this weekend. Only been screaming that for 4 years now or longer. I got a story to tell. I don't know. I think I told this. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. So check this out. Todd has been a supporter of our channel for the entire time I've been doing it, like 3 years. Sends crazy super chats, and he's funny, and he's got a lot of personality. People know who he is in the chat. He's a farmer. Everyone knows. He wore my merch on the freaking tractor, or I don't even know if it was a tractor. It was some kind of farming equipment that costs a lot of freaking money, and he sent it to me, and we bullshitted about farming. It was awesome. Okay. Todd's very cool. Todd and I have been talking about going to a Nebraska game together. Never happened. He's always busy because he's on the farm working with his kids. Gotta do what he's gotta do. I get it. He's in South Dakota. He hits me up the morning of the Michigan game. I'm in my hotel room at the Graduate, just waking up. I mean, I got blasted the night before at Barry's. Just absolutely ripped. The thing is, I met a bunch of corn craze people. And then when you meet people who, you're friends with, like 20 of them, you start taking shots, and then more alcohol comes, and it just turns into a late night. Anyway, I wake up just absolutely ripped out of my mind. And the first text says, that was sent an hour before, hey, I'm on my way to Lincoln. I'll be there in a few hours. What hotel are you at? I'm like, what? Like, Todd's texting me saying he's coming to the game? Like, it's 10 a.m. The game's at 2:30, right? So I call him. He said, hey, I'll be there in 4 hours. Like, right when the game starts, I'll be walking in. I'm like, wow, okay, what's going on? He's like, yeah, my kid and I are coming. I don't know if it rained. Some shit happened. Didn't have to work this weekend. I'm like, okay, cool. He gets there. He says, where are your tickets? I told him where my tickets were. This dude goes on SeatGeek. He buys 2 tickets 2 seats away from my seats. 2 seats away. So there's like a lady with her son sitting next to me. They end up swapping places with Todd and his son. So I'm sitting next to my friend from high school, my dad, his wife, and then Todd and his son. What are the freaking odds? The first time I ever meet Todd is because he bought tickets on SeatGeek that were literally right next to mine on the 30-yard line, on the Nebraska sideline. I mean, they were the best seats. Awesome. Anyway, that was the first time I met Todd. He's the man. He walked in like right as the Jets were flying over the stadium. Oh, it was magical. Such a good day. I just love our community. But yeah, I met Todd, so I just wanted to tell you guys. Let's see. Scott says, see Connor's Michigan buddy. College football with Sam has Michigan State beating us. Yeah, I don't know what his logic is there. I'll have to watch his video. That's very interesting. I don't know what the path is in his head. Nebraska's very dialed in, and Nebraska's talent should overwhelm Michigan State. So I don't know what he's thinking. Will be interesting. You guys are all so supportive of Evan and his proposal. This is so sweet. Douglas says, how many people are listening to House Rules? I listen to it. It's great. I really like Matt Rule. I'm just a fan. I think most people who watch my content would be watching House Rules, you know? It's all in the same world, right? I think most people do. Going through Prize Picks, because I said I would. So this week, what I like on player totals. Receivers, I think, is a total toss-up. Like a Dane Key, an Isaiah Hunter, Ja'Cory Barney. Literally, it's a 50-50 on which receiver gets the most targets or the most receptions. I like Dylan to throw 2 touchdown passes. It's a Green Goblin, but I still like it. I don't like Dylan's pass yards because the wind, you never know. Maybe they run the ball more. Where's Emmett? Emmett's at 94.5 rushing yards. That one's hard. I liked it at 89. I think I got it at 89. It moved to 94. I would probably take this green at 80 before I took 94. Geez, these are tough. Maybe an Isaiah Hunter. Isaiah Hunter is a trusted commodity at this point. I'd probably take him at 40 yards before I took Dane Key at 45. Or before I took Ja'Cory Barney at 52. I think Isaiah, again, he's one of Nebraska's best receivers. It's tough. Ja'Cory is probably Nebraska's best receiver overall. Isaiah and Dane are probably equal. They're both really good. Nebraska does not have a receiver problem. Let me tell you that. Michigan State, what are their lines? I just want to see, just for fun, you know. Michigan State. Aiden Childs to have a passing touchdown. I'm not hot on that. His pass yards, I'd probably take the under on Aiden Childs' pass yards. 196 is a lot. I'm not taking that. Or I would take that. I'd take less. The running back, what's his name? Mackay Frazier, 70 yards. I like him to rush for more than 70 yards. Outside of those, the receivers are all total guesses to me, so I'm not touching those. So it's really the over on the running back, the under on the quarterback pass yards. Those are my feelings there. If we go to the Big Ten games this week, my picks, I like Michigan to beat Wisconsin in dominating fashion, like 24-point win. So spread 17.5, no problem. Illinois Purdue's interesting. I took Purdue half unit. I just think Purdue's getting better. I think Illinois is in a weird spot. They're off the USC win, which is huge, but then they have a big game next week. Who do they play? Illinois has Ohio State next week. So I'm taking Purdue plus I got 10. It's now at 9.5, but 10's cool. Penn State needs to dominate UCLA. They got to get their confidence back, and they're used to beating up on weaker opponents. So UCLA might score 7. I'm taking Penn State. I took Maryland in this game against Washington. They're at home getting points. Washington's flying across the entire country. Northwestern against UL Monroe, okay. And Ohio State, Minnesota, I'm not touching. So that's my thought on the Big Ten games. On some of the bigger games this week, what are we talking about? Cincinnati, I already told you I like over Iowa State. I like Baylor over Kansas State. I like Florida over Texas. Wow, that line's at 4.5. I got it at 6.5. I'm also on Florida money line. This really tells you all you need to know about Texas. They're 3-1, the number 9 team in the country. They went toe-to-toe with Ohio State. Florida is on the chopping block. I mean, they're a loss away from their coach being gone, right? They're a loss away from their season being freaking over. And they are only a 4.5-point dog to Texas. Wow. Yeah, Florida, all in. Alabama, Vanderbilt. I love Diego Pavia. Like, I can't describe a word stronger than love. I can't use one stronger than love, but I love that guy. Awesome. All in Vanderbilt. 10.5. Let's freaking go. Money line, no. I don't even have him in the money line parlay. Not that that excited or turned up on Vanderbilt yet. But 10.5 points for a team that has proven they will fight, for a team that has shown they can run the ball, taking them all. Taking all 10.5 points. Louisville, I took -6.5 against Virginia. I like that. Virginia is probably a 7-win team this year. They're good. 7 wins, that's a big improvement. But Louisville has a lot more talent, and they're at home. Virginia off a really emotional win. What else is on here? Florida State, I'm taking money line, and I got +4. I like Florida State. They're a good team. Mississippi State's now up to 16.5. My God, I don't know why. Mississippi State's quarterback sucks. Like, Blake Shapen played so shit last week against Tennessee when it mattered the most. I mean, no disrespect, but he had Heinrich Harburg level passing when he was playing in the biggest moment of his life against Tennessee. And I didn't have, I had them +7, so I was in no fear of covering. I had 7.5 actually. No fear. But I was still frustrated watching it. I wanted to see Mississippi State win that game. Anyway, I'm still taking 16.5. Too many points in an SEC game. TCU, Colorado, I'm taking TCU. Colorado is, you know how I feel about Colorado. And Duke, Cal. I'm taking Cal, +2.5. That's that. And again, I'm doing it all on BroThrow. If you want to play on BroThrow, you can download the app, use code CORN, sign up, get a free $10 bet, pays even odds. It's the only place that I place straight bets and money lines. So those are my thoughts on the games around the country. I'm excited. It's going to be a big football weekend. It's going to be really good. Matt says, do you think that Oregon and Nebraska will play for the Big Ten Championship? I do think Oregon will play for the Big Ten Championship. I do not think Nebraska will, unfortunately. Montre, hey, Connor, it was good meeting you at the Michigan game. Good to meet you too, brother. I love meeting people at the games. It's like the most fun I have. Douglas says, I hope that you're not putting any money on Purdue. Just saying, I have put money on Purdue 2 times this year. And I think I won both times. So I am putting money on Purdue. And I'm going to do it again because they cover. They're a machine, a wagon when I hop on for whatever reason. So I trust. Evan says, I think we match up with Maryland fairly well. Haven't watched them much, but I suppose. But supposedly they have a bad running game. Yeah, Nebraska is going to match up great with Maryland. Maryland has a really good quarterback, and they've played absolutely no one. Maryland is a 6.5-point dog this week at home to Washington for a reason, and they should be a 6.5 at least, a 6.5-point dog next week to Nebraska. I'm not concerned about any team Nebraska plays prior to November. So, yeah, every team they're going to match up well with. Nebraska's talent-wise, Nebraska's in a really good position. They've recruited super freaking well. They're paying really good players. These other schools they're playing are not on the same level. It's just the fact, Maryland, Minnesota, Michigan State, their talent profiles are much more similar with the top of the Big 12, not even the top of the Big 12, with the average team in the Big 12 than with a team like Nebraska, right? So the expectation is we match up very well with them. I'm excited for it. Painful. I don't even like talking about it. It's like a sin as a Nebraska fan to not watch a Nebraska game, especially a Nebraska fan of my caliber, someone who is an addicted Nebraska fan. I am going to be at that Oklahoma game, Oklahoma, Texas, and the game kicks off at the exact time as Nebraska, Maryland. For the first time since I don't know what year. I couldn't even tell you. For the first time in a long freaking time, I won't be watching a Nebraska game. I'm not going to be able to. I'm going to have to watch the replay. I'm going to have to watch the score on my phone from the Cotton Bowl. It's tough. It's devastating is what it is, especially given the fact that Maryland's actually a decent team this year. I was banking on the fact that, maybe Maryland's going to have a losing record at the time Nebraska plays them. So when I go to the Cotton Bowl, even if Nebraska is playing, it won't be a meaningful game. It's going to be a game where they're going to go wipe the floor with them like they're a Northwestern or something, or a UCLA. It's not the case. It's going to be a big game. Anyway, I won't be able to watch it. I won't be able to make a live reaction either. Oh, God, it's just getting worse. It's okay. It's one time. Got to live my life. I'll enjoy myself in the Cotton Bowl. Got to do what I got to do. Saray says, I hate that I can't play bro throw in Colorado. I hate that too. Kansas and Colorado, bro throw is a no-go. Every other state you can use it. Frustrating. Luigi says from the guy earlier, the short and sweet, all business press conference is very true. They don't want to talk, they want to do. And I think that's why we're most confident in Nebraska right now. They're freaking dialed in. They want to win. They want to prove that they are the team they thought they were before. They're the team who can make it to a playoff. And to make it to a playoff, you cover in games like this. Like, don't get me started says, good teams win, great teams cover. This is a week where Nebraska needs to assert their dominance. This is a team that needs to go out and remind people that they are Nebraska and that they are serious. They're not half-assing it like some people questioned after that Michigan game. But guys, I've been running. I've been going hard for a while. I don't know how long I was on, but a bit. I'm going to go make some dinner, go for a walk, maybe call my mom. And I will talk to you guys after the Michigan State game. I'm really excited to watch it, though. Like, I want to see Nebraska come back. I want to see Dylan throw for 300 yards. I want to see them overcome that wind BS and all of these narratives that they can't get up for a game. I want to see them dominate like they're supposed to. So I'm hoping with all my heart that they do. I'm hoping for a cover. I'm going to go bet on Brothrow and take that bet that I told Dave I would. And I will talk to you guys on Saturday. So with all that said, thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Go Big Red.